How's it rockin', Dwayne Nation? You're listening to the Dwayne Sports Podcast. We're about to get underway. But before you give us a listen, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, and share. We are posting weekly sports content, and we want to build up the brand that is Dwayne Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy.
Welcome in, Dwayne Nation. This is your host, Justin Pies, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and we're looking forward to week 13 of the NFL season. Waiver wire episode, our show for the week. We got four names that from each of us that you need to go on your waiver wire, scoop them up. You can play them this week, or maybe you can stash them. We will explain that to you as always. And before we dive into everything, how you doing, Genoa?
Yo, Dwayne Nation. Justin, I'm doing good. I'm like I mentioned last episode, I'm a little upset about my Texans, so that's the reason why I look a little down right now. My Texans took an ugly loss today to Tennessee at home. So it's right sitting in the back of my head. But you know what, Justin? We're on to week 13. We got to play Jacksonville, so I guess I got to let go. And we're still leading the division. We got another division opponent. So other than that, Justin, we just got to get some wins here in fantasy. Everybody out there in Dwayne Nation, they're panicking a little bit. We're down to the final, 2 weeks of fantasy, maybe 3, I believe, if you're in an 8-man. But other than that, Justin, we have to get victories all across the board. Dwayne Nation needs victories, and luckily for them, Justin, you and I, we have some pretty good waiver wire picks that they can pick up and stash for this week.
Yeah, no, we're excited to help you guys out. This is the home stretch, as Genoa was mentioning. You got to be ready and alert. There's still a lot of good names on the waiver wire that you can scoop up and play. Because we only have a couple weeks. I think these are if you have a normal league, we have playoffs starting in week 15. So we got this week coming up, 13 and 14, and next week's the scary week because there's 6 teams on bye. So this week focus, get this win for sure. Next week, hopefully you don't have too many byes and you still get that win. You move into the playoffs, you get your bye week or whatever you need, and then we'll keep helping you out. But let's start here to help you out in week 13 with the quarterback position. And I have Caleb Williams as my waiver wire pickup of the week. Obviously, he had a phenomenal game against the Minnesota Vikings. They do lose, but he looked very good. He's a QB2 on the week. DJ Moore got involved. Keenan Allen got involved. We saw things are coming together better and better every week. Now he gets the first game of the week at Detroit, right? And I think he's going to be a good play. I understand that there could be some concern around that, but hey, he's playing inside. We don't have to worry about any weather. Now, I keep thinking about him, getting a little deja vu to last year where Green Bay went into Detroit and we were like, oh, Detroit's got this handled. Then Jordan Love just went off, had a phenomenal game. And I just think, I don't know, maybe, a year later, a new team with a new starting quarterback. Chicago's been looking good. They just been losing these close games. And I'm not saying Chicago's going to go in there and beat Detroit, but I think this game is for the taking. And I think Caleb Williams is a great streaming play. He's only owned in 36% of leagues. So go out there, pick him up. And I think you can use him past this week, but I think this week especially would be a good one.
Yeah, Justin, looking at Caleb Williams, he's kind of getting things together ever since they fired, Shane Waldron there. And I do think that the Bears want to finish as best as they can. They look really good. And looking into this matchup, I do want to mention that, you mentioned last year the Packers and the Lions, Jordan Love passed for 3 touchdowns. He could have hit 300 yards. He was very close there. But that was targets that we weren't familiar with, right? We didn't really know much about Jaden Reed. I don't know if Dobbs or Watson I think he kind of went out in that game. But we were familiar with his targets now. Like, we have Keenan Allen, we have DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, and Nicole Kmet there. And not to mention Swift, former line there. He's going to want to get his revenge there. He's a great, pass catcher out of the backfield. There could be a chance there. I want to mention that the Lions, I don't think I've won a Thanksgiving game in like 7 or 8 years there, Justin. Wow. So there could be a chance that Chicago, they have lost 4 in a row. They've lost some heartbreakers. That Hail Mary to Washington, the missed field goal today in overtime. And they have a short week, so it's going to be very fresh in their mind there, Justin, about what's going to go down here. And with Detroit there, I think that their defense is boasting, flexing their muscles. They didn't really allow a lot of points today in Indianapolis. So I do think that the Bears can definitely catch them off guard there. You mentioned it's in the, it's a national audience. The national audience there in Detroit. Everybody's excited to watch games. And on Thanksgiving, it's right before the Cowboys game in Detroit. And Detroit, just in their Ford Field, it's always been known since Dan Campbell's got there to produce a ton of fantasy points, right? We talked about last year and even this year, right? It's been a ton of fantasy points. Obviously, the last outing that the Lions had at home, Jared Goff went ballistic nuts. Obviously, it was against the Jaguars, but now they go against an offense that's capable of putting enough points there. So I definitely love Caleb Williams. Need I say, is he a start of the week, Justin? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But for me, I'm going to pick another player, my quarterback, off the waiver. It's another quarterback that's playing on Thanksgiving, and that is Cooper Rush, Justin. I have loved when I've seen out of Cooper Rush these past couple weeks there. I think he had a pretty good game today in Washington. Looking at what he was able to do there, he went kind of toe-to-toe there with Jaden Daniels. 247 yards, 2 touchdowns there. And CeeDee Lamb didn't really do too much. So that kind of speaks a lot to say. And even like last week on Monday night against the Texans, he went for over 300 yards there. And they barely scored, 10 or 13 points there. So that should tell you much there. Looking into his matchup this Thursday, I would say not only is Caleb Williams the start of the week, but Cooper Rush is also the start of the week. Looking at the Giants defense, I think this whole Giants team in general has given up on the year. I mean, they looked awful. Obviously, with it's surprising enough that the release of Daniel Jones has really broken this team out. I mean, for the rest of the season, so much of the fact that maybe Dable might be out. And so, you know what? This is a potential shootout with the Dallas Cowboys defense is awful. I mean, Terry McLaurin took it outside of 80 yards today. And Nico Collins had one that got called back last week. And so I do think that maybe the Giants offense is going to be able to score some this week. And then that puts that Cooper Rush is going to need to throw. Not to mention that the Cowboys might be one of the worst rushing offenses in all of football there. I don't think they've had a 100-yard rusher all season long there. And it's a chance that, Cooper Kupp threw for 32 passes today, and they had a couple special teams touchdowns. So that should tell you all you need to know there. That's crazy to me. So I do think that Thursday, Cooper Kupp, you can pick him up. You can potentially start him there. Tolbert is playing good. You still got CeeDee Lamb. You got Shoemaker, who scored today as well. You got Turpin there. So I do think that against this porous Giants defense, I like Cooper Rush to have a great game this week on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I don't think I realized that the last 2 weeks, he's not a world beater quarterback. He's not giving you 35 points. I don't think he has that upside, but he's a very stable piece that you could throw into your lineup. And his schedule, like you got to talk about his next week, against the Giants at home on Thanksgiving. That's a good matchup for him, but it doesn't really stop there. I mean, he gets to play against the Bengals, then the Panthers, then the Buccaneers. Those next 3 games after that. So 4 straight games of juicy matchups for Cooper Rush. I agree. His weapons aren't wonderful besides CD, but they're working. Things are working. I think Brandon Cooks is on the horizon of a return, so that could be interesting. And as you mentioned, with the running game is one of the worst things we've seen in the NFL. I think they only have 1 rush over 20 yards all season. So the rushing game is bad with a capital B. And Cooper Rush, he's been very solid. I think he will be very solid for you if you want between 15 to 22 or 23 points a game. You can get that out of Cooper Rush, and he's owned literally nowhere. I think he's owned in 3% of leagues. So I really like that take there. Those are 2, Caleb Williams and Cooper Rush, I think are prime pickups for your fantasy team. Moving to the running back, it's kind of the opposite. Mine, I'll preface, is a stash. He's a complete stash, not a guy you're starting this week. It's only on an injury contingency, which is it's not something to predict. But if you're a Josh Jacobs manager, you need to pick up Emmanuel Wilson. If Jacobs is looking phenomenal, right? 100 yards, 3 touchdowns against the 49ers. That workload for anybody would make a very good running back to have in your fantasy team. And Emmanuel Wilson is in line for those touches if Jacobs were ever to get injured. We're not ever predicting injury, but it's especially if you're the Josh Jacobs owner, you need to have a handcuff for this backstretch of the season. And so I think you need to just go in there, grab him. I know it's not pretty. You might look at your lineup, you're like, maybe why do I have him? But hey, he's a good handcuff, and on the off chance that this happens, he would be a great guy that you'll have in your lineup every week.
Yes, Justin, absolutely. I think, middle of this game, Josh Jacobs was out about 5 to 10 minutes. I wouldn't say of game time, but just of total time there. He just wasn't, I don't know if he was in the 10 or anything like that, but was able to come back and finish strong. However, there, Justin, it is the end of November. It is December. And where do the Packers play? They play in cold up north Wisconsin, where it gets cold. And I think that with Jordan Love, their young quarterback who's phenomenal, they might be relying on a lot of the running game. So there's going to be a lot of Josh Jacobs and now Emmanuel Wilson, who gets catches out of the backfield from Jordan Love, who gets sometimes he vultures some touchdowns. I don't know if he scored today. I don't think he did. But he is a potential vulture for touchdowns, and you never know with Jacobs there. He had some injuries there in Vegas. Obviously, this time last year, he kind of missed this back half of the season, which led Zamir White to take over. So that's something to keep in mind and consideration there. So definitely like that right there, Justin. For me, I'm going to go with the second best option in all the waiver wire. There's really not much to choose from, but I'm going to go with the guy that I think we mentioned his name a few weeks ago, and that is Roschon Johnson. He only had like 1 or 2 yards rushing, but he did get a goal line touchdown there. We love our touchdowns in fantasy. We're not really sure what's going on with Swift. He's been having one of the most hot and cold seasons. When he's good, he is good. When he is not there, he is definitely not there. We didn't hear much of Swift today. In fact, the leading rusher today for the Bears was Caleb Williams. But still, we do like our rushing touchdowns there in fantasy. Not really much to say. Roschon Johnson, could he go off against Detroit Thursday? I don't think so. But this is a guy to stash and kind of look to the potential of the future of the rest of the Bears schedule. And if things don't work out with Swift, as it didn't in Detroit at the end of the season, and at the end of last year with Philadelphia, I mean, Justin, Swift was hot up until week 10, 11, and then fell from the graces of fantasy. As well as last year in Detroit, he was good, and then he got a lot of touchdowns from Jamal Williams. And it's kind of been a reoccurring theme for Swift. So I do believe that with Roschon Johnson, this could be the guy that you can lead on with the offensive coordinating change in Chicago.
Yeah, and it's going to be a hard start. You're praying for a touchdown if he is on the field. But it also can relate to what I was talking about with Emmanuel Wilson. Injuries play big in the back half of the season. DeAndre Swift is known for being injury riddled, unfortunately. And if that were to occur, Roschon would be a great play week in and week out. But without injury, Roschon's snap percentage has gone up over the last 2 weeks from 33 to 42%. So he's getting almost half of the snaps. He's not getting the touches, but it's promising that his snap count is going up, that he's on the field more, and so that could lead to brighter things. And he's their goal line back, so it's important to have a goal line running back on your fantasy team. So I like that there. He's still not owned in over 80% of leagues, so I like that. Moving to wide receiver, I have DeVaughn Vele of the Denver Broncos. He's only owned in 1.7% of leagues. Obviously, the number one wide receiver for that team is Courtland Sutton. He's been phenomenal, and he deserves that title. But Vele's been very solid under the wings. And I just think with Bo Nix finally stepping in and embracing everything and breaking out as a rookie quarterback starting for this team, things are going to start going up for other people as well. And Vele has gotten, over 8 points over the last 3 weeks. So I think his usage is going up, and that's really promising. And so I think with Sutton also, I mean, he's been really good too. And I just think that defenses are going to start focusing on, hey, let's not let Sutton do anything for this game. And that's going to let DeVaughn Vele have some opportunity to carve out a bigger role for himself, make a name for himself. They play Cleveland, who has been struggling for most of the season. Then they have a bye week. Then they play Indy, a hard game against the Chargers, then Cincinnati. So only one hard game left rest of season. He's free everywhere, so I would scoop him up.
Yeah, Justin, looking at, DeVaughn Vele there, this is a guy that the past 3 weeks you mentioned, he's gone over 8 fantasy points. He scored a touchdown a few weeks ago in Kansas City. And then the past couple weeks, he's got, 5 or more targets there, 60 or more yards in each of the past 2 weeks. And with every, you talked about Courtland Sutton there. With every number one guy with the rookie quarterback, you're going to need a number 2 guy. Kind of like last year with, my guy in C.J. Stroud, who, had his guy Nico Collins. And then he had to go to his second guy, Tank Dell, unfortunately, until Tank Dell got hurt. But you know what? With DeVaughn Vele, he's, the past 2 weeks, he's had receptions long over 20 yards there. He had a catch over 20 yards today. Last week, he had a catch over 30 yards. So this is a guy that the next couple weeks, Bo Nix is going to be looking towards to. Not to mention against the Browns that they have this upcoming Monday night. They could be defense coordinators are looking to probably stop Courtland Sutton, and that's what's going to leave DeVaughn Vele to get some touchdowns. And so I like DeVaughn Vele's matchup there, his ceiling there on Monday Night Football. So I definitely love that. That is a sneaky pickup for sure, Justin. And a quarterback that is hot right now, like we mentioned last episode, Dewey Nation, Bo Nix is now number one frontrunner. Me and Justin are on the same page here. we do think that Bo Nix is now taking over Jaden Daniels as the front runner to win the Rookie of the Year. So Bo Nix is going to kind of finish his campaign strong, and it's going to need to rely with DeVaughn Vele as well. For me, this hurts, Justin. This hurts because, like I mentioned, the Texans lost to the Titans, and they got cooked by Nick Westbrook-Ikine, Justin. He got cooked today, Justin. I mean, he cooked my Texans. It's tough to accept it, but looking at Nick Westbrook-Ikine, he had a touchdown today, right? It was crazy. I think it was like out of 50 yards there. What was it? Let me look right here. I think it was a 38-yard pass. But Justin, Will Levis is kind of hot there. And I do think that, last week he also had a great game, Nick Westbrook-Ikine. I think he had over 100 yards receiving. And so this is something that not really a lot of people are talking about. But little by little, yes, the Titans are not going to make the playoffs. But I do think they want to finish strong. And I don't know. I think this is a guy that you can rely on to pick up. And Justin, no one is talking about this, but he has 6 touchdowns. Nick Westbrook-Ikine has 6 touchdowns. He only has 17 catches, but still 6 touchdowns there. He did have a touchdown last week too, to go along with 117 yards there. So that is something to consider. I do think it's a little bit of a tough matchup going into this weekend, I believe, in Washington. But still, I do think that Will Levis, this offense is catching a little bit of fire as Tony Pollard is able to, move the stakes. And now defenses are kind of a little concerned, as my Texans were, how to approach this Tennessee offense there. They were able to score 32. It's weird that the Titans were able to score 32 points, but the Texans defense on fantasy got 25 points. So, it's a little, obviously they had a pick 6, but still it's weird there. But still, Nick Westbrook-Ikine is a guy to pick up. He's only on 7% of leagues. So, hey, why don't you pick him up and see where you can go from there?
Yeah, no, when I read that stat too, my eyes were like, what? He's had 6 touchdowns over the last 7 weeks. Like he is involved in our favorite area on the football field, which is the touchdown area. He's been solid, and the fact that the Tennessee offense is cooking a little bit. Obviously, the Texans had no answers for them today. Has me interested, and the fact that the last 4 weeks, this is Nick Westbrook-Ikine's snap percentage: 92%, 97%, 100%, and 85%. So he's on the field. He's on the field as much as just about everybody except the quarterback. So yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say I want to give you some props. I think you had Will Levis as your league winners or your sleepers of the year. Sleeper. So hey, it could be a guy for the rest of this year that you can plug and play, and that's going to be through Nick Westbrook-Ikine and Calvin Ridley. So go ahead. I just wanted to give you your props right there.
I mean, it hasn't really worked out this season. Besides maybe the back half, we could see something, especially the 2 positions that have the easiest rest of season schedule: Titans quarterbacks, Titans wide receivers. So by far the easiest stretch imaginable. I mean, Washington's been so-so. Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Jacksonville again. And then if you play in the championships in week 18, which is loco, but if you do, they play Houston again. So they don't have a hard matchup again. So I think that offense might start cooking. Westbrook-Ikine, the only problem with him is the amount of targets he gets. But maybe that'll go up. I mean, he's showing it with touchdowns. And as we were mentioning, touchdowns are golden. We talked about Roschon Johnson a second ago. That those are some, your saving grace in fantasy. And if you need a plug and play, a lot of people don't. His odds of scoring a touchdown are higher than a lot of other people. So I think he's well worth the pickup over, not owned in over 90% of leagues. So I like that there. And how we always finish our episodes with defensive streamers of the week. And I have the Cowboys, who, shocked a lot of people this week, beat the Washington Commanders, and their defense did so well. I mean, 2 defensive touchdowns was phenomenal. Now they play against the Giants, who struggled mightily against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, only scored 7 points. So I think maybe Cowboys got some momentum. They're at home on Thanksgiving. This is, they own Thanksgiving at home. Like that's their stomping ground. That they're comfortable in that. The Giants, not so much, with Tommy DeVito on the road. I think that Dallas is in line to have a very good game defensively, which we wouldn't have expected over the last week looking at it. But now I'm excited to see what they have, so I'd scoop them up.
Yeah, Justin, I just want to say that Tommy DeVito was so disappointing. I mean, obviously it's the Giants, but come on. I mean, Didn't do much today at home against the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers are not they're middle of the pack. But I mean, I was very disappointed from Tommy DeVito. Like I mentioned, yes, it's the Giants, but he did better last year without a first round pick in Malik Neighbors, and Malik Neighbors had some things to say after the game, and that kills team morale, team chemistry, and fortunately for the Giants, it's not going to last much longer. They got another month of the season left, and they're done. But it was very degrading to see. Tommy DeVito was one of the stories in the back half of last season. Tommy DeVito, and no, it's been very disappointing. And I think that with what Malik Neighbors said today, I don't think they're going to be on the same page, and they're not going to have enough time there, Justin. We're kind of heading into Monday right now, and the next game is Thursday, and not like barely hitting the afternoon on a Thursday, where most games are on Thursday nights. So definitely have a great scheme there with Dallas trying to get another victory to save McCarthy's job. Like that a lot. For me, I'm going to go with Seattle, and they're facing a team that has a lot of turmoil too. They're facing the other New York team that, I feel bad for, New York teams. They have a lot of drama with one team not being so talented going to the year, but another team having some high hopes there and adding a top receiver in the middle of the season there. And that's Seattle going to playing the Jets there. And, Justin, there is a chance that Aaron Rodgers might not play. And if Aaron Rodgers is not playing, Justin, I don't think Davante Adams is going to be too thrilled with that there, Justin. And so you're potentially Seattle. They had a great game today in Arizona, right? I do believe they had a pick six from Kobe Bryant. No, not that Kobe Bryant, but Kobe Bryant had a pick six today. They limited the Cardinals to 6 points there. The hot Arizona Cardinals, and so I think that with Seattle, they have a hot kind of thing going on here, and they have a defensive head coach. They go to New York there. With weather conditions could be a factor. I'm not really too sure yet with the weather, but it is cold. It's December. It's, going to be close to December. It's up north. And so I like Seattle's defense to go to New York. And looking at if, Justin, let's say Aaron Rodgers were to get benched. There's no Zach Wilson, obviously. However, Justin, there is Tyrod Taylor, who I don't know if he can really do damage on the Seattle defense. I don't know what the practice squad is looking like, but Jordan Travis, the guy at Florida State, I don't know if he's healthy, ready to go. He's still on the injury report out of, I think, his late ACL tear this time last year. So if Aaron Rodgers were to miss, I don't think Davante Adams is going to be too excited for that. I don't think his heart will be in the game. I do think that Seattle can kind of, they limit James Conner really good today, and so they can kind of stop Breece Hall. And so I think that Seattle can do just enough just to be one of my starts of the week. For defense, they only own it 10% of leagues. They had a great, I think they scored, 16, 20 fantasy points there. They didn't even allow a touchdown today. So I do like their chances next week against the Jets.
Yeah, I think coming off the bye, their last two games at San Francisco and then home against Arizona, both very solid offenses, and only allowed 17 to San Francisco and 6 to Arizona. They had 5 sacks today, 25 fantasy points, and that's enough for me to start them next week, especially against, as you mentioned, the Jets, who are just kind of drama all around, hard to pick what's going to happen. They're always disappointing, unfortunately. Now, it is in MetLife, but I don't know. I agree. I think I would like Seattle. I would scoop them up for sure, especially compared to, like, I had high hopes for the Commanders today, and they sold. Now they play Tennessee next week, but they looked really bad on the defensive side, and the way Tennessee's looking, I would like Seattle. So I agree. I think Seattle's a good pick there against the Jets. But yeah, Dewey Nation, those are our waiver wire pickups for week 13. Thanksgiving's right around the way, so get your turkey ready. But make sure you have your lineups ready first, as the games start Thursday early, bright and early at 11:30 Central Time. So yeah, we will be sending out more content to help you set up your lineups. So stay tuned for that. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, share, all those good things. Thank you all for listening. And Genoa, send us out.
Yo, Dewey Nation, this was our starts and sit of the week. We're going to have a ton of content, as Justin mentioned, all by Thanksgiving Day. So you don't have much plans. Feel free to sit by the TV, have some turkey, have some mashed potatoes, and just watch all things Doing Sports. Dewey Nation, we're here to help you guys out, whether it's to win some fantasy games or to win some money, some bragging rights, or maybe with college, you want to see your team win it all. We have it all here at Doing Sports. So we love you guys. Thanks for watching. And as always, peace.